North Dakota Congressman and House Judiciary Committee member Kelly Armstrong joins me. Good evening, sir. Has your committee been looking for those transcripts?
Well, I'm assuming we asked for them as soon as we found. I mean, we've been asking for everything all the way in. We've been told the same thing, that they don't exist, and then now all of a sudden, miraculously, 117 pages exist. So it's going to be really interesting to figure out exactly how this all occurred. But it's hard for me to believe that general incompetence does, considering this is pretty much as high profile as a case gets.
You know, I'm sure they didn't have a scavenger hunt at the Department of Justice. I mean, to look for these documents, they've at least were requested in this lawsuit. And as an officer of the court, you make representations that you have turned over everything that you're required to turn over. And so it's quite shocking to me that now all of a sudden they show up. Now, obviously, mistakes can be made, but I don't, the Department of Justice doesn't seem to, I mean, I guess they had a scavenger hunt and they found them. It's just bizarre.
Well, and especially considering that they had 70 hours of audio, and they're saying it was untimely for the FOIA request because it would take too long to go through that audio. So there's real implications in the court process as to why these 117 pages are important and probably actually factually important to the underlying case. And it's, again, I find it incredibly, I don't even know what the right word is.
You know, they may be irrelevant. They may have no bearing on anything at all. And of course, underlying the transcript, I would much prefer always, as a lawyer, to have the audio, since transcripts don't reflect anyone pausing or a mistake by a court reporter. Do you have have you ever had the audio of those conversations?
No, we haven't had it, and we've not been given it. And this goes also to the audio conversations about the special counsel's investigation of President Biden. And I think after watching the debate and understanding what has happened in the last 10 days, that it becomes abundantly even more clear that there were a whole lot of people that could see what the American people saw, and obviously the Democratic Party saw.
And what you're referring to, when Special Counsel Hur interviewed President Biden, it was audio. They turned over transcripts, but not over audio, and they cited something called executive privilege, which is for a president to have safe conversations with his aides. Special Counsel Hur was certainly not his aide. The executive privilege doesn't apply to him. In fact, he was trying to do just the opposite, prosecute him. And then the Attorney General of the United States, who's a lawyer, sits up there and says executive privilege, that's why he won't turn over the audio to you.
Yeah, and the Judiciary Committee is actually in court fighting about that. And even if you could figure out some way that executive privilege may have applied, which I agree with you, it doesn't.
How?
They waived it the minute they.
I know they've waived it because they turned over the transcript. But in your wildest dreams, how could someone who's seeking to prosecute, like Special Hur, ever be considered one of your trusted aides that you want to keep your conversations with to get good advice? I mean, it's patently absurd to suggest that.
I agree with you, and why I think it's so important that we win this election in November, because regardless of what happens, we have to continue this case, because this is really a fight between long-term executive and legislative branch. And if they're allowed to get away with this, that is incredibly dangerous for congressional oversight in future administrations as well, regardless of which party's in charge.
I actually don't think it's important now at this point. You see, he's not running. What I do think is important is the job of the Attorney General of the United States. And the fact that he has done that is very distressing. He's still the Attorney General of the United States. And I think we need to identify what the role of the Attorney General is. Is it to represent the American people, or is it to be the front man for a president and assert privileges that simply don't exist in order to hide documents? But I'll take the last word on that. Congressman Kelly, thank you. Congressman Kelly Armstrong, thank you, sir.
Thanks, Greta.